We've had a few questions about the investor market come up on the WhatsApp group. So I'm going to have a little talk about what's going on the ground in the investor world. This is for WA and for those that have got an interest in investing or have invested in Perth. So the question that came through this morning was, how much and how possible is the rent increase of forecast, and how's it going to impact tenants across the board versus investors? And really interesting thing that I saw come up on some Facebook pages when the budget was announced, and a lot of investors seemed to think that they were going to increase their rent for their tenancy in line with what they believed the forecast was going to be in 12 months. And it blows my mind that that's actually even a thought process, because that is not how rents get increased. You can't increase it because of what you think the rent is going to be in 12 months. You are setting the rent for now, for this market right now, and you lock it in for 12 months. And so when it comes to rent increases, you are looking at two methods. One is using something like RP data, which can show you historically where the property sits as a value for rent. And you can also look at supply and demand on the main portals. So for me personally, if there isn't a lot of stock, sure, RP data totality is a great option to use to help assist with what the average rent might be. But at the end of the day, tenants don't really have access to that. All they have access to is the portals. So that is why I like to use realestate.com or Domain to see what else is available. If I issue a rent increase to that tenant and they go, I don't know, maybe it's a little bit high, the first thing they're going to do is go to the portals, have a look at what else is available. Can they find a better deal somewhere else? And is it worth the moving? So when they do that, you need to make sure that your rent increase is in line with what the market is doing. So end of story, that's the way that it is. So when we talk about the forecast of the rent, it is probably hard to speculate, maybe more than 12 months. What I can tell you now, though, is that we are still seeing rent increases now in this market. So what are we? We're July. So we're still seeing rent increases. They are ranging anywhere between $20 and $50 per week. So that's sort of quite normal. That's quite average. Obviously, we do still want to make sure that rents are below market rate for really great tenants. So that continues to be the plan. However, when it comes to leasing properties, we are finding that the leasing of the properties is a little bit slower. So we can have properties vacant for maybe 2 or 3 weeks these days. We can be holding home opens and only getting 1 or 2 people through. And then when we only get, a couple of people through, sometimes the quality of the application still is not great. What's really interesting, though, is that a lot of investors have only experienced a really good market. So for the last 4 years, it's been a good market. You haven't experienced what it's like to have low numbers come through. What I will say is that this is a very normal winter market in Perth. So generally anywhere between April, from about Easter, April to October, it's slow. And so really the question is, are we getting into a low market or are we getting into a normal market? I believe this is just a very normal market that we have always had, except for the last 4 years. So for me, that's what it is. It's not a low market. It's a normal market for this time of the year. And so what I would hope to see is that while, yes, we definitely are still seeing good increases because we do have a supply and demand issue in Perth. So we are still seeing that $20 to $50 per week. I do probably expect that to continue for another 6 to 12 months, especially because the investors are very much just standing still with buying, selling, with doing anything, to be honest. So while there's that standstill, I think we'll just continue to see what we have already been seeing, and that is those increases. Now, also, it's important to add on that we are finding that tenants are coming back and asking if there's any room to negotiate, where in the past they probably haven't done that as much, and they are coming back now, and it is definitely becoming a little bit of a negotiation game. So something to be mindful of, where in the past we sort of just issued a rent increase and that's what they paid. They are requesting that, and sometimes it's going to be warranted as well. So something to always be open-minded and consider. So rent forecast for the next 12 months, treat this as gospel. Don't make any financial decisions based on this advice. It is purely an opinion, but I do believe that the rents will probably still increase slowly as we go on. Not a slow market. In a normal market, rents have always increased about $10, maybe $20 per year. I think we'll continue with that normal market, which will be an annual increase of $10, $20 per week moving forward. So that would be what I suggest is going to happen over the next 12 months, maybe 24 months. Hope that helps. If you have any questions on the market in Perth, let me know, because the Perth market is very hard to comment on as a whole. We have so many micro markets inside Perth. So Rockingham holds its own micro market. North of the river and the new estates hold their own micro market. So do apartments versus houses. So it's really important that you don't sort of make any decisions based on the broad information you receive. It's definitely really important to speak to a property manager that specializes in an area to get some real on the ground advice. So hope that helps. And I'll include the WhatsApp group link here if you want to join the other investors in that community.